Welcome to Live Ball, presented by Harper Volkswagen. Here are your hosts, Paige Dauer and Todd Kelly Jr.
Don't expect this team to do anything other than compete as we continue to finish this one out.
Good morning and welcome into Live Ball. Paige Dauer alongside VFL Todd Kelly Jr. It's a beautiful bye week. The sun is up a little earlier. I enjoy not driving to Harper Volkswagen in the dark, so the time change is a bit nice. And we heard from head coach Josh Heupel just a moment ago, really emphasizing what the team's mindset is following their third loss on the season. And it's really a sentiment that the whole team has echoed. Joey Aguilar said it after the immediate loss to Oklahoma in the post-game press conference, that the mentality has to be that, like, you're blessed to continue to be playing. You have to keep this mentality that you have to keep the fight, keep that competitive spirit. What would you gather is maybe the appropriate energy for this team following that third loss with 3 more games to go on the season?
How do you respond? You know, this shows who the leaders are when things don't go the way you planned or the way you wanted them to. How do you respond? How do you show up? And you still have 3 more games to play, and then a bowl game after that. So, what film are you going to put on tape, right? This is an opportunity for some young guys to step up and, make plays. This is an opportunity for, upperclassmen to solidify themselves as leaders on the team. And, just thinking of what that locker room looks like, I'm sure there's a lot of questions of, is the offense mad at the defense? Is the defense mad at the offense? Are people mad at the kicker? I think this loss has really brought the team together more than people realize. And from the outside in, it may be hard to understand that. But this team still believes in one another. And losing at home is a terrible, terrible taste in our mouths as fans and as former players, but even more to the players, the current players. So I think they'll respond. And, to have a bye week is kind of tough to simmer over it over the long weekend and to come back and, play a lower tier opponent. But I think that's what they have to do. They have to send in it because, they thought they were a college football playoff team. But at the end of the day, if it was the same team last year in this situation, it'd be a whole totally different situation. So.
I think it would be too, TK, and I think this is an important week to really have a temperature check on the team. We'll get so much into maybe what's caused these 3 losses, the postseason outlook, and then later in the show we'll have Tyler Ivins with 99.1 The Sports Animal joining, and then who won those free Tennessee football tickets to Vanderbilt. All of that's coming up in the show. I want to dive in a little bit deeper to that postseason outlook, obviously coming in at number 25 in the initial college football playoff release, which is maybe to some fans a bit surprising. They're the only 3-loss team, both in the AP poll and the CFP. But when you continue to stack their strength of schedule and record, I still think it's better than most teams that's around them, despite not having a ranked win yet. For you, when you're in this position and you talk about maybe like the team pulling together, what is best case scenario for this team and their postseason outlook when you, I guess at this point, only like your max is a bowl game,
sure,
right? So
sure.
What's your outlook coming off this like temperature check kind of week where you mentioned they kind of just have to like stew in it for a minute?
They do. One is, beating the brakes off of New Mexico State when they come to Neyland Stadium. I feel so bad for that team just because they've got to receive the wrath from the loss of the Oklahoma game. 2, you have an opportunity to go on the road, beat Florida in the Swamp, which you haven't done since 2003. That's a huge deal, and I know sometimes whether you're a transfer or didn't grow up here as a Vol fan, you're here as a University of Tennessee football player, you still understand what that quote-unquote rivalry looks like. And even though the SEC schedule is changing and all this stuff, it's like, man, we've got this one time to do it. And, that's bragging rights for sure. Because I don't like Florida very much. and then third, if Vanderbilt continues to win out, knock them out of the college football playoff. Vanderbilt and Tennessee have an ongoing rivalry. You can solidify yourself as the team of, Tennessee overall and put the power T across the state. So I think those 3 things are huge, and you have an opportunity, too, to put your brand on film. These guys want to play pro. Go out there, show what you're made of, make some plays, and, show why you came to the University of Tennessee.
I think it's important that you bring up the remaining schedule in Florida and Vanderbilt. I was looking at ESPN earlier, and some of their analysts are projecting Tennessee to be in the Duke's Mayo Bowl and Charlotte, North Carolina. Not all bowl games are made the same, and I think there's definitely better energy in Florida. So I'm certainly thinking that maybe the players are looking at that Duke's Mayo Bowl, and they're like, we don't want to play there. I don't think I would want to play there if I was, suiting up in the orange and white. So it is important. Go to the Swamp, defeat Florida in the first time in what feels like decades.
Yeah.
You've got Vanderbilt, who, for all intents and purposes, you go back to Diego Pavia when he was talking about how they're going to run the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Okay, if Tennessee can handle business, that'll circulate for all the wrong reasons for the Commodores.
Right.
And then I think best case scenario, maybe that gets you to 20, 22 in the CFP, and maybe that gets you to a bowl game that's in Florida. Maybe you get to Tampa, and then your season kind of feels like it ends on a higher note than if you're in the Music City or the Dukes Mayo.
Yeah, I think if Vanderbilt wins out, we knock them off. I would say we're, around that 16 or 17. Obviously, we're not getting into the college football playoff, but it's so interesting, Paige, this conversation about going to better bowl games. When I played under Coach Jones, I mean, we weren't, if there was a college football playoff, we weren't even thinking about being qualified for it, right? So I think that's a testament to how far Josh Heupel has taken this program, that the expectation is college football playoff. So this is the first time in a while that we're talking about a bowl game, but that's a great situation that, you consider your program a success if you qualified for the college football playoff or not. Now, is this season a disappointment? A little bit too early to say. But, the standard is the college football playoff under Josh Heupel, and, we missed out on that. But the guys understand that, and they say, hey, even though we didn't qualify, we still want to win out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was Jalen McMurray earlier this week talking about that mindset that TK has alluded to for the rest of the season.
We're blessed to be able to come out here and play every day, take advantage of the opportunity of playing for Tennessee as a group. That's the vibe. We get to play the game that we all grew up playing, and definitely anxious to get back on that field. But we're taking this week to really focus on ourselves.
So Jalen McMurray talks about it being a blessing to have these last 3 games left, and it's funny that it's 3 games left and they have 3 losses on the season. I want to maybe take a temperature check and kind of evaluate maybe where this team is and what you believe might have contributed to these 3 losses, if you see a common trend at all.
Yeah, I would say taking care of the football. I think our defense has done great at forcing turnovers, but we've given up the ball too many times in situations where you just can't do it. You got to take care of the football. I think number 2, tackling. Tackling has been a huge issue, probably more glaring than I've ever seen in this program, particularly in the back end at the safety position. So that's something where Idris Farouk has stepped up tremendously. As a young player, and if he misses a tackle, it's because he's going full speed. But tackling across the board as a defense is something that we've struggled with.
And I think it was VolQuest who I believe had a really nice article on the missed tackles and it going for like 1,000 extra yards or something crazy. And I think for all intents and purposes, you notice Tennessee getting gashed so many times in these games where you get them in 3rd and longs and they just can't tackle and they end up converting for a first down, and eventually that turns into points for the opposing offense. But did you like how the team responded against Oklahoma? Unfortunately, like I think it was Kirk Herbstreit who said he was wearing Daisy Dukes for the Oklahoma kicker. Like, you got crucial 3rd down stops, but they just go and get like 6 field goals or something crazy. Did you see meaningful progress out of this Tennessee defense against Oklahoma?
Absolutely, which, almost makes this loss even more frustrating. For the first time in a while, I don't have to talk about, the defense's performance being bad or not showing up to the occasion, because they played great football. And you look at that first half, we were down 16-10, but they gave up a defensive touchdown, right? And so we held them to field goals. And when you're a defensive player, you consider that a win. If you either force the team to punt or hold them to a field goal, that's considered a success. And so for our defense to really show up and in Neyland, let's give the fans credit too. That atmosphere was unbelievable. You mentioned Kirk Herbstreit. He said, this is the best atmosphere I've ever seen, right? And he's done his career for quite some time. So that's a testament to Neyland Stadium and the University of Tennessee as a whole. But when you have all of that and it's a top 25 game, you have to come out with a victory. And, we didn't show up. We just shot ourselves in the foot, turned the ball over way too much. And when we had opportunities, we didn't prevail.
I think that leads kind of into the idea that I was thinking about. In Tennessee's 3 losses to Georgia, Alabama, and now Oklahoma, the common trend that I'm noticing is they really struggle to play team ball or complementary football. You could look to the Georgia game and not being able to turn those extra possessions into points, and that's been what we've seen this entire time. And where I think it gets really magnified is when your opponent is able to turn their turnovers into points. And you mentioned not being able or not having to talk about Tennessee's defense this week, and you mentioned Idris Farouk. He got the 1 turnover for Tennessee against Oklahoma, and it was a 3-and-out by the Volunteers. So sometimes that leads me to also be like, play calling is suspect at times, because I don't think they're maybe putting Joey Aguilar in that offense in the best position to capitalize on these extra possessions. But I do think when you look to these 3 games, like, I just don't know why they're not able to play complementary football for all the chaos that the Tennessee defense has been this season and their inability to find consistency. Like, not being able to capitalize on extra possessions is just killer.
It is killer. And you look at those losses, specifically the Alabama and Oklahoma game I'll focus on first. We gave up a defensive touchdown. Our offense did at crucial times. When you're really driving and you miss a block and they go and, tie the game up when you really have all the momentum going and the crowd in it. And then in Alabama, right before halftime, it's a 14-point swing. So that's when the other defense is making plays. But when we make plays, right, and score defensive touchdowns, which has happened, more than we often do, we're winning the games. But then when we first force turnovers and don't score, our offense isn't showing up. So I think in those games, Alabama, Oklahoma, and even in the Georgia game, when our offense does show up, we can't get a stop to save our lives. So I think just ultimately the complementary football aspect has to be there if you want to be a college football playoff team. And in these big games that we've, come short of, that just hasn't happened.
I'm going to go to a point that you mentioned earlier with Josh Heupel and how you guys struggled with 7-win seasons, and even qualifying for a bowl game was a win for you all. What's your initial reaction when you hear these conversations that maybe Josh Heupel isn't the guy anymore?
I pause and I think and I ponder. One, just what's the qualification of a University of Tennessee football coach, right? And has he done that? He's beat Alabama. He's beat Florida. Hasn't gotten over the hump with Georgia yet. But all the things that coaches haven't done in the past, he's done. He's building his team. He's building his roster. You look at the recruiting class he's putting together. I think people can sometimes look at a situation and see the worst in it, where Josh Heupel, he's the guy. He is. He's just the guy, Paige. And for people to jump on the bandwagon of fire Josh Heupel, I personally think that wouldn't be a good decision for the football program or the athletic program as a whole. And just talking to the players, too, to be honest with you. When the players don't believe in their coaches because they speak up about it. But the guys are in it. I've had conversations with them. They want Josh Heupel to be their coach. You look at an LSU, for example, they were opening the door for Brian Kelly, right?
Flushing him out.
And close it on the way out, right? And that's just not the situation here. And we're not in a situation where I don't think, Josh Heupel ought to be on the hot seat. We're blessed to have him as a coach, and I think he's going to continue to take steps in making Tennessee football a premier program.
Yeah, I think so too. And I just remember my first year covering Tennessee in 2022. So what a time for me. And the college football trophy was on the sideline for one of the games. And then Hooker was leading a phenomenal team. And here you are making the inaugural football playoff. You're 1 year removed with all the chaos and, your quarterback leaving, some issues within the team happening. And you're still able to be in every single game. They're not getting blown out. And I think sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because then you might look like Auburn has recently, where they can't find a head coach that works.
No, that's right.
So I also want to, being a former Tennessee defensive back, I also want to turn our attention to Colton Hood. He was now up for the Jim Thorpe Award. He goes to the best cornerback in the country. And I was asking him about, just what's contributed to his elite level of play. And He's like, I recalled back being, a kid growing up and like no one really picked me first. I was never really anyone's first choice. So he's like, I've always done the best to take advantage of my opportunities. I've always had that next man up mentality and always operated with this mindset that somebody's trying to get my spot. And I think we've seen that translate to on the field, to how he's performed with Jermon McCoy out, which I think he'd be crazy to come back and play now, not having the playoffs in the picture. But this was his response to how he wants people to remember his season this year.
Shoot, I'm hoping to win the Jim Thorpe, but, honestly, I just hope people just say I played hard. Like, I was a guy who plays hard, who played for his team. The personal accolades, of course, you want those. Like, everybody wants those, but I just want, like, my teammates to know that I gave my all for them, every play, trying to help us be the best version of ourselves. So I think that's my ultimate thing.
And the Jim Thorpe finalist comes out on November 25th. But what do you love most about his mindset being like, I just want to be remembered for somebody who gave my all for my teammates?
That's huge. And some people say things and don't mean it, but he truly means it. And he's given his all for Tennessee to come here, be at multiple programs at Auburn and Colorado. You can see that it's just the perfect fit for him, and it's given him an opportunity to show his athleticism. Colton's great. He's going to play through the whistle, not just to the whistle. And when the opportunity presents itself, he makes plays. And, I always talk about the football gods, but the football gods will reward you if you're playing the way you should play.
Yeah.
And he does. During the offseason, he wasn't a projected starter, but he practiced like one. He showed up like one. He made plays in practice. And when his name was called because of an injury, he was ready. And he's shown up and showed out, and that's why his draft stock is soaring, because not only are you getting someone that's extremely athletic, long, has the build, but he's such a good kid. I'll call him a young man. He's such a good young man because he is, and you can just tell the leadership kind of steps that he's taken within the defensive back room, and to be considered a Jim Thorpe Award semifinalist is just huge.
Yeah, he's got 7 PBUs on the year, and interception, has 38 total tackles. 27 of those are solo as well. So I think especially against Oklahoma, we saw him really take a step forward as well.
He's always around the ball. That's what you want to see in a defensive back. When the whistle is blown, how close are you in proximity to the ball? He's always around it. The ball's in the air. Number 8 always seems to find his way around it. So love watching him play. Love his charisma, just the way he carries himself as a defensive back, and he really deserves to be on that list.
Hopefully he'll be one of the 4 coming up in the next couple of weeks. We're going to turn our attention to the squeeze and who has the most pressure. So this really is a do or die for Tennessee, I think, in the next 3 games, and you certainly don't want to be in a position where you have 4 losses on the year. I think that ends up being a kind of a point where you feel maybe the season didn't end as a total win. For you, coming off of this temperature check kind of week where you mentioned they have to stew in the bye week, what is who is the position group that you're putting the squeeze on this week?
It's got to be the offensive line. The passing and running game absolutely thrive when the offensive line wins the line of scrimmage in the trenches. We have the talent. We have the skill players, the playmakers, to have the ability to change the 3 games we have left: New Mexico State, Florida, and Vanderbilt. But it starts up front. We saw that in the Alabama game, the Georgia game, and obviously the Oklahoma game. David Sanders, he's got to continue to grow. Lance Hurd has to continue to be who he is as a player. But those guys really have to step up, specifically on the edges, if we want to have a 3-0 season to finish it out.
Yeah, I believe, too, building off of the offensive line, I think a lot of it, too, comes down to Joey Aguilar and him being able to recognize pressure when maybe there are breakdowns on the offensive line, either to take the sack or just to throw it away. Sometimes I think a lot of his throws have become like desperation throws where you just want to give your guy a chance. But at this point in the season, I believe maybe that's a little bit more on the risk side, and you don't want to do as much of that.
It is, and Look, that's what we signed up for. I think we knew going into the season, right?
Gunslinger, what can you say?
Yeah, with a gunslinger, he may throw for almost 400 yards, but he's going to have an unsolicited throw where you just say, what in the world was that, right? So that's what comes with it. As a defensive back, I loved those, being on the other side of it. But, yeah, Joey does need to be a little bit smarter in the pocket. And he even mentioned, before the halftime against Oklahoma that it was just a throw he shouldn't have made. So there's times, and it may not make sense to folks, but where you just do take the sack, right? Because rather than taking a sack, throwing an interception that could go for a touchdown, or in that case went for 37 yards, you just can't do that.
For me, I would put the squeeze on the defense only because we finally saw that performance that we've been looking for all season long.
Yeah.
And what I mentioned about the 3 losses and it being complimentary football, the offense has carried this team for much of the season. I think it's time for the defense to continue to do what it did last week so that it can contribute in carrying and dragging this team across the finish line. And maybe it comes down to tackling. I still think a lot of it is with the defensive front for Tennessee. I think the secondary was a little bit better against Oklahoma, but especially with DJ Lagway and how much they like to throw it, how they looked against Georgia, it could come down to defense and them forcing turnovers again.
I think so. And back to your point, you got to force turnovers. You have to play aggressive. You looked at Oklahoma's defense. Though Tennessee showed up, you could tell. Oklahoma's aggression alone caused chaos and forced turnovers. So I think, against the Florida and Vanderbilt, if you want to, have DJ Lagway and Diego Pavia extremely rattled, you have to come at them early and often and play on our toes rather than on our heels. I want to see us be aggressive, like Idris Farouk forcing that fumble. I want to see us coming after the ball every single play.
Yeah, and one last temperature check before we get to Tyler Ivins and who won those Tennessee football tickets to the Vanderbilt game. This was David Hobbs following that Oklahoma loss and the mindset for this team.
We got to just keep doing what we're doing, keep staying locked in, keep staying positive. Remember what our goal is at the end of the day. So if you always remember that, there should be no reason why you should come out here and just half-ass stuff.
Okay. How much of it is for the team where he says that everything they want is still in front of them. You still have to go out there and compete. You're playing the game that you love, and it's not necessarily about psyching yourself up. In your final temperature check for this team, how would you orchestrate a mindset that keeps you locked in for these next 3 games?
I think one, Josh Heupel has to really corral this team. They believe that they were a college football playoff team, and they're not. But what do you do when you're in that situation? How do you respond? You have 3 opportunities to put your craft on film, put your craft on television as to who the Tennessee program is. And I think that's going to project where we're going in the future. And I know people get tired of saying, well, next season or, the following year. But right now, that's just what we have to do. We have 3 opportunities. The guys have 3 opportunities. If you gave me 3 opportunities to go out there and do it, I would do it. I can't anymore. So I hope these guys really go out with the opportunity that, hey, I get to play the game of football and wear the orange and white.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, TK, I appreciate the time on the bye week. I know you got a busy job at Merrill Lynch. Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So, work here in downtown Knoxville for Merrill Lynch as an advisor on a fantastic team. And if anybody wants to chat about their finances, you can reach me at todd.e.kelly@ml.com.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you next week getting ready for New Mexico State, who you are already feeling bad for.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paige.
Of course. We'll be right back with Tyler Ivins and who won those Tennessee Vanderbilt tickets.
Your business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.
Welcome to Live Ball, presented by Harper Volkswagen. Here are your hosts, Paige Dauer and Todd Kelly Jr.
Welcome back into Live Ball. TK looking a little different. We got Tyler Ivins, 2 names that start with a T. Can you believe it that I'm on the other side, obviously not even prepared with my mic still up, but how do you like being in the other side of this?
See, she didn't have her microphone prepared because she's so relaxed. It's
Yeah.
just like it's Wednesdays. And then I'm going to tell you right now, Can we have Honesty Hour right here on your show?
It's called Full Disclosure Productions.
Okay, so we're going to have Honesty Hour on Full Disclosure Productions. When she reached out and she was like, I want you to get up and I want you to come do the show, I was like, absolutely.
Okay, I was like, there's hesitation here?
No. But you had to pause because TK does such a great job. And I was like,
he does.
if you want to go from Major League Productions down to AA, I mean, welcome to the AA
Hey,
production.
that's where all the talent is, okay?
Okay.
We
and
just
growing.
got to manicure you a little bit
Thank
more.
you.
So obviously, I mean, you say super locked into Tennessee football, all things happening with Tennessee. I want to get your reaction. This has been such a temperature check kind of week for Tennessee, and especially here on the show, on where this program is following those 3 losses, the outlook for the postseason.
Yeah.
But as you enter this week, what's the vibe that you're picking up on? What do you believe is the temperature in the room right now?
Had we did this yesterday, had this been Thursday morning, I would have had a lot of concern. Yesterday on our show, we happened to be at a business in Fountain City where they were doing an autograph signing with both Joey Aguilar and Chris Brazzell.
Okay.
And they did a great job of meeting with the fans. There was a line that stretched around the building, and I thought, okay, so the Tennessee fans are still in.
Yes.
Because when you lose that game against Oklahoma and your playoff chances are essentially drained, a lot of people would go, all right, whatever. No. The Tennessee fan base was still very much bought in. And I got an opportunity in the brief moments that Joey had, because it was very tight, the windows that they had there, the parameters they had set for them to be signing. And I remember I asked Joey a specific question because I wanted to know how he'd answer it. And I looked at Joey and I said, man, you have the open date right now, and you're still here signing autographs. And I know some people are thinking, well, it's NIL money. Of course he's going to be there. Man, you have the open date, and usually this is the time where you kick your feet up and just relax and kind of just want to shut out the world. I was like, good for you for being here. Season ain't over, man. And I went, So, yeah, it's a really good point. He's like, got to be better for the next one. And I know, and I get it. There's so many people are going to hear me say that, and they're going to say, okay, the quarterback's supposed to say that, but what about the rest of the team? Or, okay, yeah, once again, the NIL angle. My biggest concern about this Tennessee team, and it was the concern I had going into the Oklahoma game, was what if they lose? Everybody was picking Tennessee to win. What if they fall short against Oklahoma? Results come out, and my concern all of a sudden started turning to, oh, no. Certain players who might have been working their way back to be able to play for Tennessee this year, there are no college football playoff hopes.
Yeah.
Are they going to come back?
I would venture to say no.
I don't know how much you're going to fight to get to Charlotte so your coach can get mayonnaise dumped on his head. I don't know how hard you're going to fight to get to Nashville or to Jacksonville. The players that are already on this team that are banged up and dinged up, how hard are you going to work? Or when it comes time for that game time decision, ankles, feet, groins, shoulders, heads, necks, are you going to be like, Coach, I got to sit this one out? From a quarterback standpoint, and maybe I'm even stretching, even talking for the quarterback, but based on the response that I got from Joey, it was good to see that one of the leaders on this team's MVP. And I get it. He had a struggle against Oklahoma, had a tough time identifying the safeties on 2 separate occasions. The quarterback for the University of Tennessee still very much bought into this season, taking this time to kind of R&R rehab. New Mexico State, salute to service. And for this fan base, Florida and Vanderbilt, still massive on the schedule.
I like what you said about Joey Aguilar, because even immediately following Oklahoma in the post-game press conference, I asked Joey, I said, how do you rally the troops following this 3rd loss? What is the mindset? And immediately he says, you just got to keep the fight. And that's been a sentiment that the entire team has echoed through this entire week. We only heard from them once this week on Wednesday, but between Heupel and the players, all of them were saying you have to keep that competitive spirit. We're all still locked in. We're all playing the game that we love. You mentioned Florida and Vanderbilt. This team has a chance to not falter to those lesser tier bowl games and maybe get to Tampa, maybe end the season on a positive note with a really strong bowl game. Should they take care of 2 rivalry games, they still have a lot to play for in the regular season to make it feel like it ends on a win.
Yeah, look, I understand this is a playoff sport. And we've asked that question a few times, Will and I have on our show this week. Simply put, would this be, like, you always do the checkpoint games.
Yeah.
Okay, you've reached your first open date. Arkansas is coming up, but where are you at right? 4-1? Yeah, that's great. And then you have Arkansas, and then you have the Bamas, and then you go, okay, well, how does it? Well, that's okay because you still have Oklahoma coming. So then when you get to those checkpoints in the year, there are comments, or at least you get the temperature gauges. And there are some fans that have now completely adjusted to the new look of college football. You either make the playoffs or you don't. how often during basketball season, Paige, you'll join our show or wherever we'll be, we'll have a conversation off the air. It'll be February. They're making that turn for Nashville in the SEC tournament. Rick Barnes will make Final Four. It's a lost season. Are you kidding me? He just put up 32 wins. Like, that's not a – So in a playoff sport like football, in this kind of here's the bar, if you don't reach it, it's a failure type of season in what respective sport we're chatting about, I think that you could still look at Tennessee in a 5-year window with Josh Heupel. He gets to 9-3 this year. And let me remind you, for a lot of you out there, Vegas had this pegged at 8.5, and a lot of you guys reached out here with us, other entities saying he already gets a pass 8-4. But you got a little bit of that taste of that first quarter against Georgia, and everybody went, "What? Wait, well, okay, hang on." Adjustments on the fly. If Tennessee goes 9-3, and you do something you haven't done since 2003, and you go down to the Swamp, and can you imagine on senior day keeping that program 3 hours west of you out of the college football playoff? And by the way, if you haven't looked at Vanderbilt's schedule before they come to Knoxville, they're still going to be in the college football playoff hunt when they get there. Kentucky and Auburn, give me a break. I get it. You can only play the teams on your schedule. I get it. Point is, there's still so much to play for, and you can come to a close with the potential for a 10th win in January, down in Florida, across the state, wherever. And Josh Heupel can still look here in a 5-year window and go, that guy is good for 9.5, 10 wins a season. And last I checked, they're firing coaches in Baton Rouge, State College, Blacksburg, and Pasadena for not even getting to 8 wins. It would be a pretty darn good season.
I think in all of the conversation that has transpired this week about maybe Heupel being on the hot seat, I think all of us forget that the biggest point of the biggest conversation point heading into the season was that Heupel and company always lose the game that they're not supposed to lose.
Yeah.
They've not done this season.
Correct.
They didn't fall to Arkansas after the bye, right? Which they've not always been great after the bye. They found a way to win against Mississippi State. Yeah. Those really were the only 2 games that, like, if you're not going to lose a game, like, that's the game. Oklahoma's a much better team than they've been recently. They finally found an offense to complement the defense.
That's the best defense they'll play all year.
100%.
Yeah.
Why do you think people are so quick to move over the point that Heupel and company could get 10 wins, they didn't fall to the team that they weren't supposed to, and they could have a really good end to the bowl season? Why do you think they're so focused on they don't have a ranked win yet, put Heupel on the hot seat?
Yeah, because they see everybody else and what they're trying to do. I don't think they're living in the moment right now. They're looking at the view from 100 feet away, not looking at it from 10,000 feet away. Because when you look at this Tennessee football season, at the end of the day, the ultimate prize is a national championship.
Sure.
I mean, look, you've even got Diego Pavia, who at the beginning of the year we were poking fun and laughing at him. And I'm a Diego Pavia guy, and I get ripped all the time. I love DP. I used to watch him in Conference USA when he was at New Mexico State. And I was like, man, if this guy ever came to the SEC, what do you mean he's coming to Vanderbilt? And when he was at the beginning of the season saying, without a national championship, this season's a failure. Well, okay, Vandy, you're never going to be in the college football playoff picture. Okay, well, you're not going to get past this, but then you're not going to get past this. So in a year where the SEC's guaranteed 4 spots, in a year where you just came off a college football playoff appearance, you got a taste of it. Sister, if we go eat at a delicious restaurant, we don't want to go make mac and cheese at the house. We want to be able to continue to drive. We want to continue to be able to see those expectations that everything's school. Yeah. Because what's happening is, I think now with football being king, and it looks like that you're putting all the pieces together, it's that kind of starvation. When do we get our moment? Tennessee fans, clearly still frustrated. Blackout, sold out. Josh Heupel never loses at home. Going into the Oklahoma game, you know how many times he had lost at home?
5 times.
3 to Georgia. That ACC championship team that knocked out Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton back in 2021, and then they lost the mustard game to Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
Yes.
So, and night games at Neyland Stadium. So you have every right to be frustrated. All right, that was not supposed to happen. And when you go into the locker room against Oklahoma and you're out gaining Oklahoma 255 to 99, when your first down count is 17-5, and your snap count in the first half is 49 to 25, and you're down 16 to 10, something's off there.
Yeah.
So it was a unique situation, and a situation that usually Tennessee finds a way to play out. And things just didn't come together. And for the first time all season, your team MVP didn't play up to expectations. Yeah. So Tennessee fans have every right, because this was when the Arkansas game hit for the first open date, perfect time for an open date to hit.
Yeah.
Now you lose to Oklahoma going into New Mexico State, and the worst time for an open date to hit because you just want to get back on the football
Yeah,
field.
you want it to be after New Mexico State going into Florida and Vanderbilt.
They beat Florida November 22nd in the Swamp. This discussion will completely have moved on from it.
Who needs to show up in the next 3 weeks so that they can defeat Florida, they can defeat Vanderbilt, and maybe they position themselves for a really nice bowl game? What do you need to see more of for Tennessee to win out?
It's a really good question, and there's two spots that need to come up. And it's so funny, too, because one's the easy one. I think a lot of people see the David Sanders blown assignment on that strip sack fumble by R. Mason Thomas, and they go, this offensive line just isn't what it. Guys, Glenn Ellerbe was one of the signs this year. There were three coaches we could repeatedly got asked about, all right? Kelsey Pope, rightfully so. Wide receivers needed to improve. There were a lot of people who wanted to know how Joey Halsley's play calling, who calls the plays, but as the coordinator, you have to assign that role to him. And then they wanted to know how, in fact, Glenn Ellerbe's offensive line was going to fare this year because you're replacing four guys. And one of the guys you're bringing back, Lance Hurd, he was a huge question mark. Not so much of a question mark anymore. You stay with David Sanders. You're paying that guy way too much money, allegedly $1.5 million, to go out there and play. You can't set him on the bench.
Yeah.
That was an 18-year-old mistake he was going to learn from, and Tennessee fans in 26 and 27 are going to look at David Sanders and go, that's my guy.
Exactly.
That's my guy right there, but you got to burn your hand on the oven. Offensive line needs to improve because one thing Florida still is very, very, very good at is having a dominant defensive line that can get to your quarterback, and you don't need to have Joey to have a similar situation like against Oklahoma. And the second one, I know this is crazy because the depth, and I think this is one thing that we're just failing to remember because I know we're having to frequently remind our listeners. The secondary. They are right now Willie Martinez, kind of old Mother Hubbard. There's not a lot in that cupboard. I don't think you're going to see Jermon McCoy this year because of recent results. Ricky Gibson has been lost since the Atlanta game against Syracuse. Ty Redmond has slowly improved, but there still is room for improvement. Andre Turrentine, the safety in the back. I just think the secondary as a whole. Colton Hood went out there, probably shouldn't have played against Oklahoma, but he did. Colton Hood being able to nurse that calf to give Tennessee just enough to stay in the game. So specifically, I want to see the offensive line continue to stay together. They've had a strong year, finished strong after the one hiccup. And the secondary, you've got guys like DJ Lagway who can extend plays. Probably should have beat Georgia down in Jacksonville. Yeah. We'll leave that for another time. Florida still clearly wants to make sure that they ruin Tennessee's day. And, Sister, I ain't got to tell you what it would mean for Vanderbilt to win here on senior day, to get to the college football playoff. It kind of just makes me want to roll my eyes even thinking about that scenario playing out, but it's still very much on the table.
For me, interestingly, I think the one player that needs to get more involved is Ethan Davis.
Oh, it's crazy, too. Great call. I don't hate the JVD call on the fourth down that hit him in the face mask. I don't hate the play call. I think that ball should go to Ethan Davis.
Yes, that's exactly what I said on Monday.
If it's not Kitzelman,
I don't think it should have gone to Kitzelman anyway.
So you're agreeing it should have been 0 the whole time?
For sure.
Okay.
He already had that massive one-handed catch earlier in the game,
Kept
too.
the drive moving.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I think he needs to get more involved. I know he's helped in pass pro as well. I think the running backs could assist a little bit better in assessing where the pressure is coming from in pass pro. But Ethan Davis getting more involved in offense on the offensive side, I think could be the biggest difference for this team and really giving them a wrinkle. I don't know if Miles Kitzelman has really given them enough this season. I don't think whatever. I think Ethan Davis probably is the guy who needs to get more involved on offense to give them a chance.
I don't disagree with that. And you look kind of who are some of these new guys that we're seeing who need to emerge when Peyton Lewis has been, even though not new guy, even though when Peyton Lewis Peyton Lewis essentially was diminished to the third role.
Yes.
And then he's smashing people in the face, and some people go, Star Thomas, this guy could take your job if you're not careful. When you look at Ethan Davis, I don't know if Miles Kitzelman's been 100% this year, even though he shared that with us at SEC Media Days. Yeah, I got to see you be able to lift your arm above your head and see some of the other things. But it is what it is. Ethan Davis, I think, is a fantastic pick to click the rest of the way.
Yeah.
And, again, to the 2 or 3 guys that were kind of highlighted for the wrong reasons, I guarantee you we'll revisit those men, kind of like a Jack Van Doorslayer, like a David Sanders, and we'll look back and go, man, what a kind of baptism by fire freshman year, but I bet you things vastly change with their careers here.
I know that's what TK was saying. He's like, I know you guys hate to hear next year, but like next year it'll be really good.
And I'll just add this little nugget as we step aside here. You have to finish strong here.
Yes.
That schedule next year is not doing you any favors.
Or the year after that, or the year after that.
I was born in 1986, sister. My family's had season tickets for my entire life. next year's schedule, home schedule on top of it, is the greatest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But with that also comes expectations and levels of difficulty. Finishing 9-3 this year, knowing what's coming over the pike in 2026, I don't want to take my fist and pound the table. Absolute must.
Yes, absolutely. Tyler, I appreciate the time. It was so good having
Bump
you
me
on.
up. Appreciate you, sister.
Awesome. We'll be right back with final thoughts on who won those Tennessee football and Vanderbilt tickets. Stay tuned.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols.
Welcome to Live Ball, presented by Harper Volkswagen. Here are your hosts, Paige Dauer and Todd Kelly Jr.
Welcome back into Live Ball. Paige Dauer here for our final thoughts on this temperature check kind of week heading into New Mexico State next week. 3 losses on the year has Tennessee number 5 in the college football playoff. Initial release. What's the outlook for Tennessee? What's the mindset for Tennessee? There's certainly a premium on focus for this volunteer squad, and the idea that maybe any of them are checked out, looking for the transfer portal come bowl season, looking for their NFL draft stock. This team seems incredibly focused on the task at hand. David Hobbs even talking about winning their reps in the locker room during their weight training sessions. The attention to detail is certainly there. Team, and they all echoed the same sentiment of their leader and quarterback Joey Aguilar, who immediately following the 3rd loss on the year said to rally the troops, it's the idea of maintaining the fight. There is still a ton to play for this season, even though the initial goal of wanting to be a playoff contending team seems all but faded, seems all but gone. You have a chance to go to the swamp, win at a place where you haven't in a number of years, and you have a chance to take on a ranked opponent in Vanderbilt should they both continue to take care of business. That gives you a much better outlook should you be able to defeat Vanderbilt at home. And then Diego Pavia and his bulletin material of running the state of Tennessee goes by the wayside should Tennessee take care of business. And we heard it from VFL Todd Kelly Jr. earlier that if he had 3 more opportunities to suit up in the orange and white, he absolutely would. But unfortunately, his eligibility is out, and it's up to the guys that are still on the roster today to rise to the occasion, get a better bowl outlook, get a better bowl season. As far as our attention to the Oklahoma game, we had a survey. We had a free ticket giveaway. If you guys participated in that, I put it out on social media. And between all of our outlets, we had over 200 comments give their final score prediction and who would win. And whoever guessed first had the most accurate, picked the right team to win, would win 2 tickets to Tennessee and Vanderbilt. And because the reception was so good, we might even do that for Lady Vol basketball games this year. And Kim Caldwell has a very exciting ranked team heading into the 2025-26 season. But our winner for those free tickets for the Tennessee and Vanderbilt game, it came down to Reese Bays. He commented on the Facebook post that I had. So Reese Bays, if you're listening on Facebook or you're over here on YouTube or Twitter with us, you won those free ticket giveaways presented by Harper Volkswagen, our dear friends here at Harper Volkswagen. His score was 38-35 Oklahoma. Surprisingly, he was one of the only players in this ticket giveaway to take Oklahoma in this matchup. So if Reese Bays, if you're listening, please email me or comment on the Facebook post. You can find me at Paige Dauer, Dauer, at fulldisclosurepro.com. Please email me your information and we will get you in touch with the free ticket giveaway. Next thing coming up on the slate, JP Estrella, he makes his return to the Rick Barnes Volunteers team after his foot surgery a year ago. This was him and I sitting down ahead of the regular season start. Take me back to the moment when you had your first practice and there were not any limitations on you.
You know, things went along and I just remember Coach Barnes yelling at me. I was like, I miss this so much. It was amazing.
How much did you miss the tough coaching from Rick Barnes?
Sometimes in practice it kind of sucks when he's yelling at you, but it's definitely a lot better getting yelled at than not getting yelled at.
What was that first moment when you took some contact, you went up to the rack and maybe threw it down? What was that first moment like for you?
I probably had a huge smile on my face. It was probably joking, yelling. I was probably just ecstatic, and I just went, ah.
great conversation with Jake Piestrella. You can find the full conversation back on our website, fulldisclosurepro.com. Thank you all so much for joining us here on the Bike Week. We've got 3 more games left in the season, 3 more live balls to get to. We've so enjoyed your company this season, and we will see you guys again next week.
Welcome to Live Ball, presented by Harper Volkswagen. Here are your hosts, Paige Dauer and Todd Kelly Jr.
I'm VFL Chris Brown. Experience the VW brand proudly being produced in the great state of Tennessee. Harper Volkswagen is a proud partner of Tennessee Athletics. Go Vols!
Business can't afford the downtime that comes with a leaky roof. So whether you need a repair or a replacement, count on the professionals from McGuire Roofing and Construction. Your protection is our passion. We service and sell all types of roofs and have worked with some of East Tennessee's most recognized names. We have 25 years of experience and free inspection estimates, plus best in business warranties. Put an end to your roofing problems today by calling McGuire Roofing and Construction.